want to this. Dave, I'm going to put a little bit of mute in you because there is some noise that's filtering here, but you can mute yourself at any moment. So, welcome everyone to this new satsang that we're going to do. As you know, this is our format where we get together, we practice a little bit together, and then we open the floor for any question about anything that you need to ask. Either myself or any of the lamas here will be probably able to answer it, unless it's something that relates to Samaya, in which case we'll just let you know that we need to answer it in some other place. So today we have the luck that we have two new Kolina Mitras, Kolina Mitra Benson and Kolina Mitra Jire, who's here. We met very quickly in Bangkok. So what we're going to do, Kolina Mitra Jire is going to sing a little bit of the Heart Sutra, which he does wonderful. He's a wonderful artist. If you haven't heard him sing, you should. You're going to. But before we start, we should take refuge from bodhicitta, right? So, Lama Chile, would you like to lead us in refuge and bodhicitta?
Sure, Lama. Greetings, everybody. Put your hands together with this mudra, and we'll sit. I don't know how you're sitting, but let's sit straight. Take the breath. Then we say, I take refuge in the Buddha,
Refuge in Buddha.
our teacher, the Dharma, the holy teachings, the Sangha. We say, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the holy Sangha. And last time, I take refuge in the Buddha, the teacher, the Dharma, the teachings, the holy Sangha, our assembly. And we want to encompass the entire world, all worlds with compassion. So we'll say the four measurables. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. And really feel it in your heart and expand it to everybody. May all beings be free of suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be separate from the joy free of sorrow. And may all beings abide in precious equanimity, free of attachment and aversion to those near and far. And we take a breath here. And exhale. Now doing so, we're ready to begin our satsang. Lama.
Thank you so much, Lama Chile. This was wonderful. So, to kind of set the mood, and to kind of also remember that, as Lama Chile said, we need to encompass all beings, right? There is always this question of, Lama Fede, how can we encompass all beings? How can we liberate for sufferings all beings? Well, there's two answers to that. The first one is something I always say, kind of in a flippant way, but it's true, which is, well, at least you can spare them the suffering of your own neurosis, right? So even if it's just not being an asshole, that is it's a gain for all beings. If we all could do that, that would be wonderful. But a more interesting approach rises of how to understand what suffering is, what beings are, and especially what is this samsara that we are trying to escape from, right? And I think that in the sutras, there is no single place that it is better encompassed than in the Heart Sutra. Uh, Kalina Mitra Jirek, would you like to lead us in the recitation and singing of this?
Thank you, Lama. Arya Havadokiteswaro Bodhisattvo Gambhiram Prashaparamita Charyam Charamano Vyavalokeyatisma Sma Panchaskandas Tamsha Swabhava Shunyam Pasyati Sma Iha Shariputra Rupam Shunyata Shunyataiva Rupam Rupanna Pratak Shunyata Shunyataya Na Pratak Rupam Yat Rupam Sa Shunyata Ya Shunyata Tat Rupam Evam Eva Vedana Samya Samskara Vinyanam Iha Shariputra Savadharmaha Shunyata Lakshana Anutpana Aniruddha Amara Avimara Anuna Avaripurnaha Tasmat Shariputra Shunyatayam Na Rupam Na Vedana Na Samya Na Samskara Na Vinyanam Na Chakshushruta Rana Jivakaya Manasmi Na Rupa Shabda Gandha Rasha Spasta Vaya Dharmaha Na Chakshudhatu Ya Vannan Manovinana Dhatu Na Vidya Shayo Yavanna Jara Maranam Na Jara Manana Na Shayo Na Dukha Samyudaya Nirodha Marga Na Jnanam Na Prapti Tasmai Shariputra Apraptitvat Bodhisattvasya Prashnaparamitam Ashritya Viharatya Chittavarana Nastitva Atrastro Viparasya Atikranto Nishta Nirvana Prataha Tiradava Vyadvastitaha Savaputta Prashnaparamitam Ashritya Anuttaram Samyak Sambodhim Apisambudha Tasmanyat Tavayam Prashnaparamita Mahamantro, Mahavitya Mantro, Anuttara Mantro, Samasama Mantra, Sava Dukha Prashamana, Satyam Amityata, Prashaparamitam Mukta Mantra, Terata Gate Para Samgate Budi Swaha, Gate Para Samgate Budi Swaha, Gate Para Samgate Budi Swaha. Iti Prashaparamita Hridayam Samaptam. Thank you.
Thank you, Jury. This was wonderful. This was wonderful, and I must say the recitation was spot on. Spot on. It's always such a beautiful thing to hear the scripture of the Buddhas in its original language. Always remember that this mantra, if I would say, if I can just say a thing, is the Om Gati Gati Paragati Parasamgati Bodhiswaha, right? Should be one of your main mantras. Doesn't matter which. Oh, sorry, my camera is not really going. Well, I'm going to use this one. Should be one of the main mantras whenever you are, right? It doesn't matter if you are at the beginning of the path or at the end of the path. Always keep the Heart Sutra in your heart. So again, thank you so much, Jure, for sharing this. One thing,
Thank you.
like perhaps I don't know if I can extract it from here, but if you can do a recording of you reading this it would be wonderful to have. Would that be possible?
Oh, yeah, sure, Lama. I can do a recording of the Heart Sutra in the Sanskrit and send to you and everyone.
Thank you. That would be amazing. We're blessed that we have so many great singers here. Uh, Lama Jili, for example, is a wonderful singer, right? And Lama Josh and everyone else. So I'm very happy that we have so many singers in this. So before we start with the satsang, let's do a very brief spell of meditation, right? Just a very brief thing. And to do this, I would like to remember the 4 foundations of mindfulness. You recall the 4 foundations of mindfulness, right? You guys recall what those 4 are? Or
No, Lama.
Okay. So there is let me show you something. Oh, I hope I didn't break anything. So there's 2 things that, give me 1 second. No, I just sent someone the link. So basically there are the 4 foundations of mindfulness are usually a series of focuses to be aware of meditation, right? The first is the simplest one, is the meditation on the body. This is why every single system of vipassana starts with mindfulness of the body. Then it does go to mindfulness of emotions. Then it moves to mindfulness of awareness. And then it moves toward mindfulness of dharmas. So if you look at it, it goes from the more uh, concrete things and it starts to slowly move into the more abstract, I would say, right? Abstract. Let's focus today on the second level. We have done a lot of body meditation, so let's focus a little bit on the emotions. To explain this, the meditation itself is going to be very simple, but to explain a little bit, within Buddhist Abhidharma, within uh, like Romance language, within English or Spanish or French or other systems that come from Latin, we tend to think that emotions and thoughts are two things, right? And this is very common in Western thought by let's not think with our brain, let's think with our heart, right? Or if you are talking a little bit in Argentina, let's not think with our sexual reproductive organs, let us think with our brains. Like, it's always like this kind of binary thing. However, in Buddhist Abhidharma, there is no such thing as emotion or thoughts. Rather, what there is, there's mental representations that have more or less bodily charge. They are more or less abstract. So, for example, let's talk about this very briefly. Let's imagine that we have a spectrum, right? In this spectrum, there is something that is very concrete for you. You remember the moment your first pet died, or something equally moving, right? Or the moment your grandfather passed away, or when they punch you when you fought someone in elementary school and they punch you and you felt the blood in your mouth, right? Very, very clear. The other part is going to be the abstract personification of this impermanence or death or violence, right? In Western thought, this would be emotion, sadness. This would be a concept, impermanence. In Abhidharma, it's a spectrum, a non-dual spectrum, in which the main difference is how bodily are you thinking about it, how specifically you're thinking about things, or how universally you're thinking about things. Does that make sense? Excellent. So, what we're going to do is we're going to embody the feelings. I want you to go, I don't want you to feel like, and I always hate these kind of instructions. Okay, let's bring our mind to something peaceful and happy. This is not going to be good for you. What I want you to do is I want you to focus mainly on being as concrete as possible and not just thinking like happy thoughts, not just thinking like something like this. I want you to think of something that is intensely pleasurable for you. Now, for a lot of people, this tends to be sexual pleasure. But Freud would say that everything that's pleasurable is sexuality. But I mean like sexual congress with someone. But it doesn't have to be, right? It can be eating an ice cream on a hot day. It can be the pleasure that you get from listening to music, right? It can be there's a video that I think Pablo sent to me the other day, which is wonderful. That from Terry Crews, which is an actor, and he was having a very candid interview, and he was saying, for men like myself, the fantasy of getting vindicated with someone who wronged you is more pleasurable than an actual sex fantasy. And I get this. I get this. It's like, especially at my age, like as an orgy, I'm going to disappoint everyone, but like going to someone who thought this guy is not going to amount to anything and look like exactly probably something wrong. That's bliss. Like, now look at me. it it is this is so stupid, right? But the trick is to focus on the pleasure itself. and how it feels on the body. And then I want you to do this. I want you to imagine that you scoop the pleasure that you feel. Usually for myself is here, right? I feel it in the center of the chest, but for you it may be anywhere. There's no a particular place for pleasure. It can be anywhere. Scoop it whenever you have it and move it towards extremities, right? It's like if this is the steaming center of pleasure, you take it and you lather yourself with it, you cover yourself with it. And when you do it, it's going to come down in intensity. So you go again to the same memory and another, and you do it the same a couple of times. And then you focus on that feeling, on the feeling itself, not the memory, right? You use the memory to produce the feeling. Then, when the feeling pervades you, you just relax into that feeling. That way, we come from the embodied and situated into the more abstract and universal. Does that make sense to everyone? Yes? Any questions before we start? No? Then let's start. Remember, you don't have to tell me what you're thinking about. So if what brings you pleasure is something very guilty and something very kinky, wonderful, just think it for yourself. Focus on the pleasure for a couple of seconds. Now take this pleasure and anoint yourself with it. Now again, we can go back to the first memory or find a new one, and we focus on generating more pleasure. And now again, we spread it out and we rest in this pleasure. And now we relax. How was it, guys? Were you able to? Think all right? For me, the way that it feels is that there is kind of a vibration in all the body, right? This is how it feels when everything is moving. Those are the darkness. So give me 1 second. I think someone.
Lama, it's also quite interesting that like that's the arousal, but also like that's also like me being mindful of like the feelings and the that arise and also the arousal itself, but also like there's also other feelings like a bit of like anxiety or shame, and then I was just observing and at the same time also observing the different kinds of s- sense that was generating the pleasure vision or sensation, the sense of like the vision sense and the body sense or the touch sense and all this sense that but within that uh imagination that created the initial pleasure before we spread it, and also observing within myself the different sense faculties that was
Mhm.
creating that pleasure experience, and it was quite interesting to observe and just be mindful.
It is important to understand that what you're observing, which is very good, Jure, it's that there is not a thing that we call pleasure, right? But essentially, it's a conjunction of several things, as you said, like the vision sense, the touch sense. And what happens is that we're accustomed to have them as memories. And memories are a series of stimuli, what we will call the skandhas in Buddhism, that get compressed and get associated with a particular feeling of pleasure or displeasure, whatever it is. But there is nothing in those memories or feelings or shapes or forms that is pleasurable or displeasure by itself, right? That is good or bad by itself. So what happens is that the conjunction of things, what happens in your own experience and how you process it and everything else, it's what gives a rise to the feelings itself. But there is nothing that's intrinsical there, which is a very epidemic way of seeing things. So if you tend to think like, okay, this is for me, like this is creepy or this is horrible, because of course we're doing with pleasurable things, but we're doing pleasurable things, but this is the way everything arises. And anxiety, problems, this arise exactly in Bahaya Sutra. This arises out of experiences that we have had before that have been charged with feeling good or feeling bad. If we are mindful, as you are doing, Jire, and yes, exactly, like tasa, actually, right? That if you are mindful of the things that arise and understand that this linkage, it's not set by itself, it's just stimuli that appear and get linked in a particular way. When you have something bad happen to you, instead of trying to understand, to resist it, and this is something that is bad, you're going to understand that the experience and the feeling that the experience carries, they are going to pass away. They're going to go and disappear. And the problem is not the experience or the feeling. The truth is that, imagine that you, for example, had that's a stupid thing. Let's do a stupid thing. Imagine that you had prepared for a long time for an exam at the university, and you get rejected, and this is horrible for you, and your family is like, you're not good enough to do this, right? Then every single time that you would pass near the university, you would feel a little bit of dread. But does the university is dreadful in any way? No, right? By understanding this and by feeling dread, it will come to a place then when the energy of the emotion exhausts itself, then it will become unlinked from the representation of the university. And then it wouldn't matter anymore. And you might think, oh no, this is something that only great meditators do. No, this is how it works every single time. Meditation, the only thing that allows us is to see the process. But let's say that you had a bad experience at your elementary school. Are you okay? Oh, he's a little bit of allergies. So let's say you have a bad experience at the elementary school. Someone like bullied you or called you names. And this happened when you were 10 years old. So perhaps you change school, and at 11 years old, you go by the school and there's a feeling of horrible things, right? But now you are like me, almost 50 years old. You can go by and there's nothing there. At most, there is kind of this, like the memory of feeling something about it. Why is that? Because even though you haven't done meditation, because the linkage between the place and the feeling wasn't reinforced because you changed your school, eventually it's going to fade away all on its own. You need to sustain things. Things are also impermanent. Feelings are also impermanent. So this happens all the time. The only thing that meditation does, it does not change how the mind works, but it allows you to see it. And it allows you to hasten things or slow things. If you had a horrible experience, you were abused, for example, meditation is not going to make it go away and think, oh, that's so nice. No. It will, however, give you the space to survive while the awfulness of the situation starts to fall down, right? And eventually it will help you remain there and make the emotion go away faster. It is not going to change what happened, but it's going to change how you experience the remembrance of what happened, which is not the same that you're going to be okay with it, right? But it's not going to drown you in it. If there is something that's good and you want to remember, with meditation you can continuously reinvest. You can recall, which is what we do, for example, when we do deity practice. We do deity practice and we always visualize the same thing, right? Why is that? To reinvest, to make sure it doesn't go away. We don't forget it. So this is what meditation is. Essentially managing the energies of the mind,
Well,
so it
is
focuses on
that
one thing or the other.
is
Yes.
that part like also part linked to like calm abiding or like samatha, which like you focus on something and let it persist, or like, and no, is different
This is mostly vipassana, what I'm explaining.
to us.
That's why it's called mindfulness.
Mm.
Calm abiding what it does is it trains your mind to remain solid when there is something it doesn't want to remain solid. Let me give you an example. Oh, give me one second. There's someone I wanted to come here. I'll just have to record a message. Give me a second. Hey, Jonathan, sí, me imaginé que lo esperaba a las 11:30. No hay drama. Nos vemos el lunes, cualquier cosa. Y si no, bueno, nos vemos en otro momento. Un abrazo. Sorry. So no, imagine that you get a young kid, right? You don't have to imagine. If you have a son, a daughter, a nephew, whatever it is, just pick one of this and do this experiment with me. So let's say that they are those kind of kids that always have like a tablet or like a cell phone in their head, which is like most kids nowadays. So you go and say, hey, you want to get superpowers? They're going to be like, yeah, I like superpowers. Like which kind? Like Spider-Man? Oh, even better, you say. Even better. So go here, sit here, and you take away their cell phone and you say like stare at the wall. And they're like, uncle, what is this? Stare at the wall. You stare at the wall, you get superpowers. They're going to last, I think, between zero point 0.5 and zero point 0.7 seconds until they start crying, calling to their father and like, what? Because today, the greatest problem that we have talking as a Buddhist teacher is that we have so many stimuli, right, for attention that is what is called the attention economy. It's very difficult to live a non-stimulated life. What do I mean by this? When Kempo Pema, one of my teachers, was a young man, he worked as a yak herder, right? And yak herders are very poor in Tibet and also very bored. His life was, I'm going to wake up before morning, I'm going to say my prayers, and I'm going to herd yaks. They're going to walk half a mile towards the valley. He lived in the mountains. Then they're going to sit there, and I'm going to sit there until it's time for them to go back home. That's it. That's the whole job. And he had to remain there, and everything was very boring. So he amused himself by visualizing deities and things like this. Today we have kind of the opposite problem. There is no single way that we can escape uh, being stimulated, like with this, right? Um, and the main thing is that it's very difficult to train yourself to remain bored because you have so many options. But there are people who are rediscovering this. Go online in TikTok or go into Instagram and find the term raw dogging. There are people who saying like, I'm going to raw dog this airplane journey, and they just sit there, no books, no everything. They just look in front, right, of the, yes, raw dogging, exactly, raw dogging. They look there and they do not get distracted because there's so many distractions that's very difficult. What shamatha teaches you is the ability to get bored but not being distracted, to remain there, to remain in a thing. And it's going to be important because when you are doing vipassana, shamatha is not going to liberate you. Shamatha is just going to give you this power. But when you're doing vipassana, when things that are very painful start to rise, there's always going to be the temptation to go like, no, 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 I'm not ready for this. Shamatha is the muscle that's going to say, okay, this is horrible, but I'm still going to remain in meditation, right? It's going to make it stick. So that is why shamatha is so important, especially at the beginning, why we emphasize it so much in P1, because if you don't have shamatha, you're going to become one of these people who are always after experience. Oh, I'm not feeling the meditation. Oh, I feel more this deity than the other. It's not about your feelings. It's about actually becoming enlightened. And if you need a feeling every time that you practice, what is going to happen is you're going to chase those feelings. And oh, this person gives me feelings. What feelings this person may give me, I don't know. Perhaps I like them, perhaps I want to bet them, perhaps they scare me, but it's something. Then I have to chase that. And which is what happens now in social media. What sells in social media? Controversy, making people angry, right? Or making people afraid. This sells because people are not accustomed to do anything but follow these attention paths. So shamatha gives you this. Does that make sense? Sure. And with this, I think we can actually start, if you like, to ask any question. Since Shura already asked a couple of questions, very interesting questions. Thank you.
Lama,
And
I'm also
yes,
my question, just to clarify, my question for the shamatha meant specifically for making something sustained. Like, so for example, you say like there is like if in the mindfulness, if there's a negative thing or what we can or positive thing arise, like we could also sustain or make longer a positive thing or something. Is that also like the samatha help with that particular part of maybe make expanding something or making it remain?
No, that's going to be another thing, right? Because
Mm.
usually things that are nice, that are attractive, are going to be it's going to be easy to remain because they're attractive. Attractive things attract, right? It's a stupid thing, but so the trick to make them remain is to repeat them, right? What shamat is going to help if the thing that you want to make is very boring. So, for example, do you know how to make uh, a memory palace to kind of remember things? What is the key to make a good memory palace, Jure?
It's like the relationship of the meaning
No,
of the or it's also the funny the like there's a bit of like an absurd or something that's like yeah some
you had to make it memorable.
yeah.
It's not stupid, but you have to make it funny and absurd and very striking. So, for example, let's say that I want to remember something very like very abstract. Like I have this book that a friend sent me from a game he wrote, After Death, Life Again, right? Very abstract book, very abstract title. So what would I do, for example, to kind of visualize? Do I want to visualize this? Very difficult. Do I want to visualize the meaning? Very difficult. But I can, for example, visualize a zombie rising from the grave. After that, life again and becoming whole. Therefore, it's easier to remember the name. If a zombie comes back to life, or if a vampire comes back to life, easier to remember the title. The same thing is going to help with sustaining things, right? You have to make them memorable. Shamatha is for when they are boring and you want to plunge on nonetheless. Excellent.
Thank you, Lama, for clarifying. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hi,
Guys,
Lama.
hi.
So what do we do with the vibration once we experience it in meditation? And also sometimes, what if it happens outside of meditation? What do we do with it?
With the vibration that you feel when you feel pleasure?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, the vibration is going to go away eventually, right? The first thing you need to do is because everything is impermanent in itself. But if you get to the point, Rudik, when you can kind of recall it very briefly, the main thing is to look at it very clearly, because then you can kind of rebuild it from memory. This is going to happen with every single emotion, right? Emotions are, as we discussed, embodied, situated thoughts, right? Or thoughts, if you like, are abstractized emotions. But if you can recall an emotion, how it makes you feel, then it becomes a shortcut. Instead of having to think of a situation that made you feel that emotion, then you can access the emotion directly, right? That is why when you do tantric practice, the how the deity looks, it's a shortcut for the emotion that it's trying to express, right? For example, if you see like a rishi kroda, if you see a shanti deity, right, a peaceful deity, there's this smile that comes out of them. They're always very relaxed and very loose, right? And the eyes are mostly closed. They're not quite asleep, but it's like I'm completely relaxed. This is a kind of key that you can use in your own body, and this is something I very much recommend, to try to dance, to try to embody the deities yourself. You're practicing Avalokiteshvara, right? Then you're trying to embody the same ease that Avalokiteshvara has. You're practicing Vajrapani, then it's always tired, it's always tense, it's always like with the eyes very open, right? they're trying to say this is how it feels. But of course, this putting yourself there is not even that. This is an expression. This is a way of showing how it feels. You have to find how it feels. Once you have find how it feels, you try to recall it, and it's going to go away, Rudy. It's going to go away after a while. But then, when you experience it enough times, you don't have to go through all the things. You can just start thinking about the emotion, and you can start feeling it in your body.
Mhm.
And at that point, with enough shamatha that you can, if you are feeling something else, like you're feeling pain, you can stop focusing on the pain and focus on something else. You can start choosing what you want to experience in life, which is a nice thing to have, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you, Lama.
Please. Pleasure.
Is it also possible to achieve liberation through meditation only? No other practices? No like
Um,
practices or anything like that?
to vipassana, right? You mean like vipassana meditation?
Yeah, general meditation, I guess.
So there is no like general meditation. You have the most basic ones are shamatha and vipassana, which are shared by all the Buddhist schools, right?
Yeah.
But you cannot just by meditation attain liberation. You can attain perfect liberation through vipassana, but it always has to be with two more things. You always have to have a way of behaving, what's called shila, and you always have a way of thinking about things, of trying to find wisdom, which is called prajna. So the three ways of liberation in all of Buddhism are shila, samadhi, and prajna. Behavior, meditation, and wisdom, right? If you just do meditation, but there is no change in your life and there is no change in the way that you think, then what's going to happen is that you're going, and I have seen this, people who do a lot of meditation but essentially do not have vows. It's like their life splits apart. In one hand you have the very good meditator that they are, but in the other they're a mess, and they're just, every time that they're not sitting on the cushion, their life is a mess. And everyone's like, but they meditate so much, what's the matter? Well, they don't have vows. Or you may have vows and be like very very good at following them, but you do not reflect on them and you not adapt them, and you're like very kind of very inflexible in your approach, then you're not going to get liberated either. You need these three things to work at the same time, which is why we always say that there is no single path, right? Because there's so many set of vows, there's so many kinds of meditation, so many kinds of concepts, that you have to find the one that's best for you. But in my experience, I had never met a Buddha that hasn't done the three of them, right? And I met a fair number of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So I would say that that's the way to follow. Does that make sense, Rudy?
Yes, Lama, thank you.
Please. Any other question, guys?
I don't have a question. Maybe it's question. I don't know. Uh, uh, but thoughts, emotions, and for me, like pleasure is like when I don't feel the pain on my body, and that happens when I'm like doing my sadhanas, and I'm doing like practices. That happens when I do just mantras, and that happened now, and that happens also always during the sex. When I have sex, I don't feel any pain, and in all of these. So, uh, in my experience, uh, if 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 I can like like I have like real physical pain. I have most
Yeah.
you don't know, but you know liver cirrhosis, and that hurts every day. But then that everything is illusion. If I can just like that change the state of I don't know, if I can not feel the pain at moment, and as soon as I don't know start to watch TV or do some mundane stuff, it starts to return the feeling of pain and stuff like that. So is that like mm, real, that everything is illusion? That's like my experience. If I can like just like this now with so many mantras, and especially that you mentioned that we need to also change our behavior. Recently, when the short mantra that you gave me, Vajra Satra, that I write you, now it's even easier for me to not feel the pain on my body because of I changed my behavior and stuff like that. So that's all illusion. Everything is illusion. That's like my experience now. I don't know. That's it. Just that.
Thank you, Sean. This is wonderful, and yes, it is an illusion. The problem, I think, that we are also illusory, and this is the part that we don't like. Like this has been always like, for example, people in the OTO or the more like Western kind of things, and they go like everything is an illusion. But there's always this kind of like problem that you are also an illusion, right? And they feel it like this is wrong. It's like this is terrible. No, I'm not an illusion. And like the true will of no, and that you are the illusion. It's the true freedom. Because if you weren't an illusion, if you had like a destiny or something like this, it would be horrible. You couldn't change it. There is a book which I like very much. Also, Lama Shab recommended me. It's wonderful. It's called Between Two Fires. I don't know if someone has read it. It's a kind of gothic cosmic horror within the Black Plague in Middle Age France, and there is wonderful scene. There is the three protagonists are essentially at a new kind of Christ, which is a girl, a priest, and a knight, right? And they are going walking, and they find a crucified dwarf, right? He's still alive, like a small midget person, and he's crucified, and they're like, "This is horrible! Like, why are they doing this? Like, to stop the plague?" And then they started to bring him down to save him, and the guy is like, "No, no, no, no! Don't bring me down! Don't bring me down!" And they're like, "He's delusional, right? He's being actually crucified." So they bring him down, and the dwarf starts crying, and it's like, "Put me back again!" And they're like, "But why?" And he gives him a terrible answer, which is, "I cannot do anything. I do not know medicine. I'm not strong. I cannot help people. The only thing I can do is suffer. And God must want us to suffer. That's why He sent the plague. So send me back again, and I'll just suffer for everyone." Very scientific answer, right? So they eventually put him back up to die. It's terrible. It's a terrible sin. But there is this. This is kind of the corollary of this idea of I'm here for something, right? I am here to get in line. I'm truly here. The good thing is that there's not a particular fate that you have. What in that scene ties the dwarf to being to die crucified, which is a horrible death, is his idea that there is a meaning, an intrinsic meaning. An intrinsic meaning of life is for him to suffer, because there is a God that wants him to suffer, right? The good thing, we don't have that. We don't have that. Yes, it maybe sounds horrible because there is this idea that there's a sky father or something that looks for us. We don't have that. There is no sky father, like no God who looks for us and say, "This is your meaning," which means that whatever happens, like your pain, Joseph, like our lives, can be changed. That the world can be otherwise, and this is a wonderful liberation to understand, right? That things arises through the causes and conditions, yes. Do we mean that tomorrow we'll be able to do like this and change? No, we have to change the causes and conditions. But the causes and conditions are changeable, right? If there was a real like omnipotent deity who had the control of all over the cosmos, and their control was the only thing, and they wanted us to suffer, or only recourse would be to suffer. Do you understand? We would kind of submit to this idea. Luckily, we don't have that. Luckily, we're free, and with that freedom comes the responsibility of choosing and to have the abilities and means and the strategies to be able to change the world as we think it should be changed by changing ourselves, because both of us are losers. Does that make sense, guys? So thank you, Joseph. This was a wonderful experience.
I have one more recently. I don't know if it's for this. Like I came to like now I every day I live for the day. Like I would it's like very weird feeling. I don't know how to explain it. Like if I die right now, right this moment, now something falls on me, I would be happy. I don't know how to. It's like I don't know. It's like I would be happy that I don't know. I went to Mara roast. I did everything, and I like now I'm after especially after the Bardo teachings of Lama Jonathan John. Especially after that experience, after the last Mara roast, that feel it's not feeling. I don't know what it is. It's like and it's not like I don't care.
No,
It's something else. I don't know how to explain it in English. Maybe you understood what I meant. Yeah.
yes, I understood. It's wonderful. It is the same. It's not that one wants to die, not that one was like, oh, today is going to be my last day. That's good. But we have to become okay with the idea of that. That's it. That's one of the main goals that we have, right? Because a lot of what we do in order to avoid the idea of death is what traps us to samsara. Remember that samsara is not a state that exists, right? It's the result of our confusion. And one of the main confusions that we have is this idea we might live forever, right? Once we accept that we are going to die tomorrow, like right now, and we're okay with it, a lot of what one does in order to kind of forget it, it kind of eases away. The same sutra that Koinamitra Jire was reading, right? It says there's no life and there's no death. And there's a very quick way to kind of try this, which is something I always recommend you to do, which is you try to think of that as in the most materialistic, atheistic terms, right? You are one moment aware, and then not in a Buddhist way, in a very materialistic way, there is nothing. There is nothing. And you have to try to think about nothing. And the truth is, you cannot think about nothing. Whenever you try, even if the nothing is like a big ball of, like, in the movie Everything Everywhere at Once, that is a donut, right? Center of the donut. There's still something. There's still a donut. So all what you think about that, it is something that itself is not, even in this most materialistic. I'm not talking about the bardos, right? Of course, you have the teachings, you know how to move in the bardos, so that's going to be okay. But let's say that it's not like that. Let's say that it's like you are there, and one there moment you're not. Then what is there to be afraid of, right? There's absolutely nothing. But the problem is we think that there's going to be something, and we think that we're going to continue in a way that something is going to happen. Oh, I'm going to go to hell's, right? Or I'm going to get trapped somewhere. But this because you think you are going to exist in a way that you do not exist now. Is that the same thing that always happens to me here in Argentina when people ask me if I'm a Buddhist, what I'm going to be in the future, how I'm going to be reborn in the future. And the thing I'm saying is like, you're not going to be reborn in the future because we have good news. You're not even alive the way that you think now, right? And they're always like, what? And they get, you don't exist. I don't exist either. So don't worry. And of course, people hate that because they really think that. There is a particular set of teachings at the same time of Buddha called the Jains. You perhaps have heard of them. And the Jains are very similar to Buddhism, but they think that within you there is a particular particle, which they call the Purusha Svesa, which means like the holy soul particle, which is like a very small, like microscopical small um, deity that lives inside you, that when you purify enough, when you die, it just becomes a deity, right? And at the same time of the Buddhas and the same Buddhas of the Jains, there was this particular sect called the Ajivikas, which were wonderful. I went to the cave of the Ajivikas when I was in Bihar, and they were a hardcore materialists. Think that you don't think in India. You don't go to a cave in India to meditate and hope to find a cave of materialists, but it's written there like all this talk about Purusha is a bunch of bullshit, basically. And their argument was, okay, if we kill someone right now, right? If we find a giant, and where it is the particle? And the Jains were like, if you kill someone, you are too polluted to see it. And the other were like, wasn't this just very nice, right? Because we cannot see it. You, of course, can see it. But if I kill you because I kill you, then I cannot. Oh, that's very convenient. Yeah, sure. And this was always the kind of back and forth that had from that day. I think that it's important to understand that our fear of death shapes a lot of our behavior. So if you are moving past that, I'm so glad to hear this, because this is a very important milestone in everyone's path. Gabe, yes, it was like that. It is amazing for me. I went to Ajivika's cave, and it was given because Ashoka, the king Ashoka, his mother was from not from the Maurya clan, right? He was from a clan that related to the Buddha, and she was like clearly a very famous lady, because there's one inscription in the cave. The king Pridesa gave this to his mother, so she can have the discussions about her meditation system without vexing him. So it's like clearly she would go and say, "This Buddhist thing you're learning is totally stupid. show me the things, right?" But they were very committed. The Ajivikas essentially they were materialistic Buddhists in a way, right? The main difference, I think, I would say, was that most Buddhist schools don't think that matter exists in the way that we think it exists, right? And for the Ajivikas, it was very clear. Like there was polluted matter and non-polluted matter, and that was it. A very materialistic approach. Pretty much, it. There is a good argument being made, Lama Jili, in academic circles, that Ajivikas arose in the time of Ashoka, mainly as a response for Buddhists, and that emptiness was the Buddhist response to the Ajivikas, right? Because it became too, and you can see in some texts from the predecessors of the Theravadan that they were going that way. Like they start talking about pure dharmas and impure dharmas, and that there is that nirvana dharmas and samsara dharmas like nirvana is an actual atomic structure, right? It starts moving there, and Nagarjuna is very critical of that, so probably was a little bit of that. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting because it is one of these things that nobody thinks about Buddhism. I know about that period in India, that they were hardcore materialists. Everyone thinks like everyone's like the Hare Krishnas, right? Singing Hare Hare Ram. And at the same time, there were people who were like, this is just atoms, my friend. This is just atoms, right? It's very interesting. Excellent. So, any other question, guys? Well, if not, Lama Sele, would you like to lead us in the dedication prayers?
Maybe not because I have my dog's ears. It's
Oh,
not.
don't
Sorry.
worry, don't worry. I'll do it myself. Don't worry. So if there's no other questions,
Sorry.
let's dedicate the merit. So the merit of this practice helps all beings connect with a true path of behavior, a true path of meditation, a true path of wisdom. And by connecting with that true path, every single being, without exception, quickly attains the citadel of enlightenment and bask in the smile of the Buddhas. Om Dare Dare Bandare Soha Jaya Jaya Shri Shri Pala Pala Ahasha Sama Mama Koling Samanta. Saravamangalam. Excellent. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. I'm going to just do a couple of quick announcements before we leave. One is that due to our new format of mini Mara roast per year, we're talking a little bit about the possibility of doing a short Mara roast in October in Portland for people in the American Sangha, and then of course, as you know already, next February we're going to do it in Asia. So the idea is that now we're going to move, and probably the next one is going to be either in South America or in Europe. So you're always going to have a Mara roast near you in the near future. That's one thing, and the second is that with all the Upadeshas that we brought, we're going to dedicate probably the rest of this year to finish teaching the Upadesha that contains Sri Brahma and the Song of the Wicca Masters here. And next year we're going to start teaching the rest of the Upadeshas that appear, especially the one of Nagarjuna. But if you want to participate in all of this, please let me know. But you should rewatch the Sri Brahma Upadesha, because next month I'll probably, in the Satsang, teach a little bit more of that system for divination and for everything else. Thank you, everyone, for sharing your time and your experiences with us, and I'll be seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Fede. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lama.